welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be making some turkey bone broth. I made this turkey last week and I haven't picked it apart yet, and I need to get it done, and I'm going to make some turkey broth with it, so I thought I'd show you how I do it. Normally I do this in a roaster oven because I roasted the turkey. Well, typically I roast the turkey in a roaster oven, and then I just leave the bones and drippings and everything in there and make my bone broth right in there. But I think my roaster oven died. Got left outside. Well, you know, that's where I was storing it. And it got filled with water. And I think the bottom got filled with water. So it's not working currently. Nathan was going to try and fix it for me. So we'll see if it works. Anyway, I have little helpers helping me debone the turkey. Or eat all the turkey. Or whatever you want to call it. Anyway. We're going to get this done. So, in here to begin with, I already put in some bones and this hunk of drippings that I poured out of the pan the other night when I made the turkey. So like this is like all good gelatinous, good for you stuff. Anyway, so I'm just gonna put that in there as part of making the broth. And I'm just gonna pile in all the bones and skin and all that sort of stuff. This is mostly full of bones, which is not necessarily what I want, but it will still make a good bunch of broth. In my roaster oven, I can just put a lot more water to the turkey carcass. Anyway, so we're gonna add as much water as this crock pot will hold and a little splash of apple cider vinegar and get it cooking. It's holding about 4 cups of water right now, so that'll be perfect. It'll give me 4 cups of broth. As this cooks a little bit more, that the bones will break apart a little bit more, and I'll be able to stick that carcass a little bit more down into the water, and it'll be fine. So I'm just gonna cook this on high until it starts boiling, and then I'll turn it down to a low, and then just cook it for like 24 hours till I remember. It's sometime tomorrow, I think. Anyway, typically when I make bone broth, I freeze it because I don't like canning things very much. It's not my favorite method of doing things. Plus my shelf space is pretty limited. Anyway, I'll freeze it typically. I'll usually put it in like 1 or 2 or half cup to 1 cup cubes. I have some little plastic containers that are just that size. And so I'll freeze them into the cubes and then put them in a Ziploc bag. Then I can just pull them out when I need them. And it's super handy. Anyway, this time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try freeze drying it. I've never done that before, but I just saw a video on Instagram today about somebody doing that. So I'm going to try it because that would be super helpful to have concentrated turkey broth stuff that I can just add into like soups or whatever and reconstitute, and it's perfect. So I'm going to try that and we'll see how that goes. So I got this turkey back probably in November or so. I typically try to buy turkeys when they're on sale around holidays. At Aldi, they typically go on sale like super cheap right before the holiday, like the week before. So I usually try to wait and get them then, or if I find a really good deal on them. Anyway, so I try to just find the sales and stock up on a turkey then. It's pretty cheap meat. Most of the time they're like under $1 per pound, which is cheaper than you can buy chicken. And to me it tastes pretty much like chicken, so it's fine. I like it just having all this meat in my freezer. I'll put it in a Ziploc bag once I have a minute because right now Peter's awake. Anyway, so stick that back in my fridge. We'll probably have sandwiches with it for lunch. And we'll munch that turkey. I'll put it in any dish that calls for cooked chicken, and it works perfectly. So it's a pretty cheap way of getting many meals for your buck. I mean, I probably paid $16 maybe for this turkey, and I'll get 4 quarts of broth. And we already had dinner with it with 3 extra guests. So a lot of the turkey got devoured then, which is fine. And then, I mean, that's several more meals that we will get out of this turkey. So we'll come back tomorrow and I'll show you the finishing processes of the broth. I don't really season my broth very much because I like just having it versatile. I can add the seasonings later, and I don't have time right now, so I'm just going to leave it kind of plain. And I do this every time. I really don't add seasoning to my broth until I'm ready to use it, and then I can adjust the flavoring to what I need it in. The broth is done. Usually I let it cool a lot more than it is right now before I strain it, but I need to do this before bed. So I am straining it into my jars with a funnel and a strainer thingy and a measuring cup. That's what I'm doing. And this will be like 4 or 5 quarts of broth. I'm just getting this broth ready to go in the freezer, and I'm just scraping off the top layer of fat. You're not really supposed to freeze dry fat things, so I'm just taking it off. And I'll put this in my freezer. It looks pretty gelatinous, so should but I'm probably gonna put my tray in the freeze dryer and then pour this in. Oh yeah, that looks pretty jello-y. I don't know, maybe I'll try it. Pouring it in before I put it up there, but I'll probably take this in the jars up there. If you're gonna freeze the broth, this is where you would stop and put it in the freezer. Moving on to the freeze drying part. The broth was very congealed, jelly-like, and so I could put it on the tray before I put it in the freeze dryer, which was nice because I was anticipating it being liquid and it being kind of crazy to deal with. But anyway, it worked really well. I could fit all 4 quarts of that broth into the freeze dryer, and it took about 24 hours to actually freeze dry. Once I was done, I could put it into 2 quarts of powder. It's such a weird texture. It's so flaky and just so strange. Anyway, so now I have 2 quarts of powdered broth. Hopefully it works well and I can rehydrate it easily. And I mean, I could throw this in like all sorts of stuff, like rice, just throw some in along with my water and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's how you make super simple broth, or at least my method of making super simple broth. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.